Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast powered by Siemens. And now, your host, Niall Sullivan.
Yeah, and it's interesting where you say that predictive maintenance isn't necessarily right at the start of the journey, which I think is a fair enough point. But it's interesting, especially at, say, Hannover Messe, which a couple of months ago, talking to people, and there's people, I guess, just asking about predictive maintenance in general, who may be earlier in their, let's say earlier in their journey. It's good they're starting to think about it, but I'm just wondering. I lost my train of thought. I might have to cut that bit. What was I going to say?
Yeah, but for example, predictive maintenance, some people I talk to tell me, this is a concept known for a long time already. I mean, this is nothing new. And then I can, yes, agree to the concept itself, to measure something before it actually breaks down, yes. But the difference now is, I would say, again, technology. To have the data, to have the connectivity, to have cloud access. This is something that wasn't as advanced 10 or 20 years ago. So this is really the difference now to the early starts of predictive maintenance. So even though the term, the buzzword is the same, it gets a new meaning, or it has other possibilities nowadays with the state-of-the-art technology that we have yet.
I mean, I often hear that, predictive maintenance as a term is something that even goes back to like the 1980s or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm sure someone mentioned that. Yeah, so it's not brand new, but you're right. What's different now is the technology and things like AI, let's say.
How you can realize it. Yeah, the concepts may be old, but making them reality, that's really a different game now.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then in terms of actually talking of AI more generally and outside of what Senseye does, but how, and obviously it's a big buzzword as you mentioned as well, but how is it sort of impacting industry at the minute, like industrial manufacturing industry? What are you seeing at the moment?
What are the big topics in manufacturing?
Yeah. With AI, what are the big topics? What's making the biggest impact AI-wise in the manufacturing space?
Maybe when I think of, let's say, the global situation and supply chain interruptions that we had experienced in the last 2 to 3 years, I think there's some potential there to help support the availability of supplies in the supply chain. So this is something definitely that a lot of manufacturers are affected by, and try to find solutions how to solve that. And again, getting rid of these boring jobs or maybe very challenging jobs. For example, when I think of quality inspection, I mean, I've seen it. There's people in the car manufacturing, they have to really concentrate and look at a car to see the paint code, if the paint code is good. This cannot be a very convenient job. And if we can take these, if a computer or a system or AI can take care of that instead of a human, I think I consider this a relief. And so get rid of these boring, repetitive tasks that people are not meant to do anyway. So this is really something, not just automating kind of the controlling, but also inspections. I think these are a lot of topics that can be solved in a different way now.
Yeah, I think, and in terms of what Senseye does as well, we're not saying monitoring your machines is probably not getting rid of boring jobs, but it's just, again, it's making life easier and just giving more visibility, but not just on a line level, a plant level, but even, a global level. It sort of gives a global view, and then at that point it becomes more about collaboration across, because I don't know, often, well, you'll know as well, Anja, but customer or plants, different sites work quite often in isolation. They're not sort of joined up, which to some a bit, not all organisations, I should say, but in a lot of cases that's the case, and it makes scaling predictive maintenance challenging. But if you can get a driving force within that and get that scalability, then the results are there from a Senseye perspective as well.
Yeah, it helps sharing the knowledge. between those who have similar problems or similar questions. And I think that's always interesting. So even you mentioned Hanover Fair, it's interesting to discuss with competitors because there's only so many people having the same questions or talking about these topics. So and that's I think it is helpful for plants to interact with other plants from other sites because they have the same questions and ideally they can share the answers between them. That's motivating. That inspires.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it all flows into sort of a culture of just collab. I don't think any organisation would say they don't want a culture of open, collaboration and openness. It'd be great. You have a pump over here or a pump over, and you could just compare the two and have a discussion. And I guess one day that's maybe where Senseye will go as well. It'll be I'm just imagining this. I'm not leading the product roadmap or anything, but where you can mention people and say, "Oh, you should see this. I had a really interesting case. I thought you would.
Mm-hmm.
I know you had a similar one, a couple of weeks ago. That what do you think of this kind of thing?" That's I guess that's what we're looking to build. It's almost like a community. Really. It's a global community. And trying to break down some of those silos, both technology silos and, let's say, cultural silos. That doesn't sound too strange.
Yeah, and you were mentioning in the beginning that some customers just collect all the data or a certain set of more or less random data, having big data. Well, that's not valuable to have just any data. But if you take predictive maintenance as your intention, then you think about what kind of data you collect. And over time, you might still discover new insights from the collected data, but this has already been very focused data collection, let's say. So I think there's even better potential once the data is there, and you can always take the data and look back into it and find even more about it, and not just big data where somebody can look for something which they don't even know what they are looking for. So I think that gives also a good prospect for the future by performing or implementing predictive maintenance now, but having this dedicated data collection also available.
So is that another sort of common misconception about the amount of data you need to do effective sort of predictive maintenance?
Yeah, I would say so. It's easy to collect just any data, but it's really, if I have a drive full of files, it's impossible to make use of it. But if it's dedicated, if it's structured in a certain way, it's a lot easier to find what you're looking for. So yeah, a while ago it was all about big data, but I think we've come back from that approach more into a dedicated, focused data collection. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how Siemens as a whole, how we can sort of help educate a little bit on that and sort of turn minds. I guess we can't it's difficult to do that completely, but I guess what are those steps that we can take to help educate? I guess it's on a project by project basis, isn't it? So often we start on one site, and maybe the education is actually for future and the next site or the next line or the next whatever. That's where the education comes in. It's like, well, actually, you don't need a lot of data, and then it sort of expands from there, and then they move to another organisation. Then it's sort of a ripple effect like that. That's the way I would say it, anyway.
Yeah, and still I understand that it's not just something we can tell people. It is like this. They have to experience it themselves. In the end, you can show a lot of demos, but every customer, in the end, they want to see it with their machines, with their plant. So I can understand that. In the end, it's probably most helpful and most convincing to start with a dedicated project, but the individual customers, plant and machinery, and then take it from there. And we might even discover that in the past they have collected a lot of data and everything, and then after a while they learn they don't have to collect everything and strip it down to what's relevant. But then getting more machines connected. So thinking of the scale aspect again. Maybe they only did it with the new machines, but then they can learn that it makes sense not to collect all the data, but specific dedicated data and extend it even to more machines and maybe even more older machines when they see the value. Yeah.
Okay, I guess in some ways, the best projects are the ones where a customer is open to learn about these things, is open to be educated about these things, or they may have gone through a previous pilot or project which failed for a number of reasons. So they're already coming in with their own experience of it. I guess that's what you're saying, isn't it? So they've lived it, as it were. We're not, because again, it should never be about. I think there's a few podcasts we talked about this before, where a vendor, I think the vendor and the customer need to know what they need to do in order for it to be a success. Like the vendor can't do everything, but of course the customer can't do everything either.
Yeah, of course. The idea is to have a real collaboration, vendor and customer together, and driving these projects together, identifying responsibilities and tasks that need to be done, but working on it together and coming to success. That's at least what we strive for, yeah?
But yeah, no, exactly. And I was wondering whether you might have heard the concept that we have within Senseye, the sort of like having a champion user or person responsible, and you might have experienced it in other projects as well. In your experience, is that a key to it? Having one at least, but we say one. It's good to have as many as possible, obviously. But if you've got at least one person driving it forward internally, and with the support of a vendor like Siemens, we can help them to build the business case and to deliver the project and scale the project and all that kind of thing. But is that a key to it? To a success?
I think so, yes. And I really like the word champion. It suggests already somebody really great. And so I think that's exactly what's needed. It's not just technology you place there, and if nobody knows what to do with it, then it's just a stupid box. And yeah, having a champion driving this, trying it out, talking about the experience with the colleagues and being some sort of a multiplicator, this is really, I think, the recipe for success. Yes.
I guess the other point to that is stakeholder engagement, where again, from previous experience, it's projects where you might just talk to the maintenance team, and then the IT team come in towards the end, and they're not aware of what's been discussed, and then because they've been out of the loop, they're like, well, we're not going to do this, we've got our own solution. Or the other way around, where in some companies where tools are sort of enforced on employees as well, like in this case, we're talking predictive maintenance. It's like on a maintenance team, this is the tool you must use. But I guess again, to your point about collaboration, it's about bringing those people together. So there's an understanding from all different areas of the business which are affected by this. They understand the value it can bring to them and the organisation as a whole.
Yeah, and we also often use this term IT-OT convergence. So it is IT technology or practices moving closer together with machinery and the field field devices. And these are also different people being responsible for that and bringing these together. Predictive maintenance really is such a case where you need to bring IT and OT people together on one conference desk and really from the beginning by driving these projects so that everybody knows what's the target and understands what's their part in it. And you're absolutely right. IT needs to be integrated really in the early beginning already.
Yeah, and again, we're not talking about one being more important than the other.
No, not at all. They need to work together. Yeah, the same way as vendor and customer need to work together, but it's also within the different departments of the customer that are relevant to the complete solution or the complete project. Yeah.
I guess sometimes the angle you have to think about, and I've talking to different customers, because some organisations are very much IT led, so IT lead the procurement and it might involve the maintenance, but it's led by IT. But on the other side, it could be led by OT. But I guess it doesn't matter which angle it comes from, as long as the two are sort of involved and working together on it, I guess is the key, isn't it? It's not about who's leading what, but the end result.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in the end, what counts are the results, and you have to measure this somehow and make it transparent. But once you have these figures, you saved over 1 year with Senseye, you saved, I don't know, 1,000 hours of downtime. This is something everybody can see, everybody can agree on, and I think each department then has their own understanding and sees the success out of it.
Yeah, and again, that's another important role within the say a Senseye project is helping to share those successes internally as well, or giving them the tools and the data and everything they need to be able to present that, not just for a business case to scale, for example, but just general good feeling. I mean, who doesn't want to celebrate, big successes? And I guess the other thing we've seen, more interestingly, is customers or people who've had that champion, I guess they have that champion tag attached to them because they're the ones driving it, but their careers actually progressed as a result. Not maybe you can't put it all down to Senseye because I'm sure they've done a little bit towards it as well. But it's just interesting how cultural change goes beyond that. It's actually retention and growth of employees as well, which is an interesting point, I thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I just wanted to move on. I know we dropped in Senseye a little bit, and you talked a little bit about how you first sort of came across Senseye. I don't know whether you wanted to expand on that at all, Anja. That your first thoughts on Senseye when you first came across Senseye, what was, and just anything around that really.
Yeah, it was really this whole new potential that's now available when you get rid of having to focus on specific applications or having to focus on specific vendors. I mean, yes, at Siemens we have a lot of components in the manufacturing industry that we sell, but yes, come on, in reality customers have other products too, and that Senseye is just so open to it. As long as the data is there, it doesn't matter from which vendor it comes. That's just, it's huge in opening up and making it more real and making it more accessible to customers. So this is really something I remember being envious about, first of all, and now really being proud of it that now that Senseye is part of Siemens.
Yeah. And I think it's been a natural progression because, like I said, Senseye's been deployed in Siemens plants. It's been a partner with Insights Hub or MindSphere as it was then as well. So there was already a sort of good connection there already. I guess each other knew each other very well already, which sort of made it even more of a natural fit.
Yeah, and I'm so happy with every success that I see also in the plants when they identify that it's valuable to them. I just share their joy in this sense. Yeah.
And it's even what we also see, especially when you see a particularly we talk about different stages of digital transformation, but the ones who sort of pick up the baton and are immediately using Senseye and the knowledge platform as well. There's a customer who actually started using that almost very, very early on themselves. So not guided. Usually it's guided a little bit by Siemens or Senseye experts, but they sort of took upon themselves to do it. And I guess that's where we want all customers to be, at that sort of maturity stage of, they understand predictive maintenance, they understand the project, and they just get the platform and the cultural side and the data side immediately. So they're sort of going off on their own and creating their own sort of way of doing things using the technology.
Yeah, and again, the world is diverse, and some people have a really good connection and good sense of what to do and how to do it, and others need more support. And in the end, ideally, we can support all of them with as little or as much support that they need. And it's okay. Lost track here.
That's okay.
What were we talking about?
Yeah, that's okay. So it's about, so I was mentioned before about cultural, sort of the maturity of a customer being able to sort of go off and start doing stuff themselves. I mean, and some need more guidance than others because we're talking about different stages. That helps.
Yeah. Okay. and maybe we need to be very honest about this. For others, it's really easy and they just go ahead and do it. But it's not always easy. And still, I think there's a lot of, or a good chance that a customer can succeed. So this is something I want to be open about. It might require some initial project work to get it all set up. But thinking about the future, changing the maintenance processes, maybe also driven by the need of lack of maintenance experts that might not be available anymore in the future when they go to retire. So this is also something you need to invest first before you actually see results. But the experience shows that it is possible and it is doable. And this is sometimes really helping to go through these tough patches of the journey.
Yeah, and I guess what we've seen is somebody's my train of thought now. Yeah, might have to scrub that bit. Cut. Where should we start from? Oh yeah. So in terms of, I guess I mean the benefit. What I guess what I'd be interested in terms of Senseye coming in and now fully integrated as part of Siemens, but where can Siemens help? You know, as we said earlier on about scaling Senseye across, we talked about how Senseye can fit in with Siemens customers who use other types of competitor hardware and all that kind of thing. But the other way around, there's huge benefits too, right?
Yes. So as I said, sometimes it can be quite a challenge to get to the data. So that's the part where Siemens brings in the know-how in automation in general, or what are the typical protocols or architectures being used within the shop floor, how to retrieve the data from there. And that's exactly Siemens expertise coming in helping these projects to be implemented. And then it's a perfect handover to Senseye, where the actual analytics of the data is happening, including really also the feedback loops and collecting knowledge over time, not just data, but actual knowledge. So I think this is a perfect combination of our strengths.
Yeah, then that's it. Yeah, absolutely. We both bring a lot to the table, and that's where, yeah, it just seems like I said before, it's quite a natural fit from my point of view as well. Mm-hmm. So just as we sort of come to the end, I wanted you to sort of look in a crystal ball type fashion and see where predictive maintenance technology, or let's say, digital transformation or anything in that sort of area, AI, it could be, but where do you see that sort of heading over the next sort of 5 to 10 years? And I know things change a lot in 5 years, so it could be maybe you stick to 5 years if it tends to.
Yeah, I wouldn't put a year label on it, but I think I briefly touched it already before. There's a lot of potential in the fact that once the customer has set up a system for predictive maintenance, really dedicating or collecting dedicated data, and not just the time series of the condition of the machines, but also putting this context knowledge more and more in a structured format. So meaning to associate events or root causes or helpful measures to the actual cases that are being raised with Senseye. So time is really something that provides more potential. After 2 or 3 years that a customer has collected exactly this data, it leads to a new evolutionary step, I would call it, that it's not only that the customer gets information, okay, there might be something wrong, but get more input to it. So the reason might be this and that, and the measure to help out with this is the following. So this is what we call prescriptive maintenance, not just telling something is going to break, but giving even more information to take the guesswork out of the maintenance person who is being presented with the case. Okay, something might be wrong with the machine. Go check for it. So that's something I think it will happen automatically over time, And this is just driving forward what we have right now. Completely new cases. It's also looking for me into a crystal ball. I couldn't dare to say that. But just this really evolutionary step, using the exact same data, but combining them and collecting them over time, it already leads to more potential also.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, I just thought of a final sort of thing. So we talked a lot about organisations being at different stages of their sort of digital transformation journey, but so it might be hard to generalise this. But if someone was looking to implement predictive maintenance tomorrow, what are the sort of, let's say, 3 things they need to think about first?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, it's let me say it's a maintenance person or maintenance manager who's responsible for a certain factory, and they have ideally already some records of what were their failures in the past. So they might even know which are the most critical machines, what are typical failure patterns. So this is already a really good starting point, because then you can make some assumptions of what's the value behind. So that's really already giving a good starting point compared to, for example, greenfield, where there's no experience with the machines from the past anyway. So knowing what are typical failures, ideally also what does that mean in terms of cost, or how much maintenance budget do I spend at the moment. These are some good factors already to base a decision on, to let's start with a project to transform maybe the maintenance processes. If then this customer also has some of this big data collection already available, that some time ago management might have decided it's good to collect data. Ideally, the relevant data is already there, and nobody has to install additional sensors or so, but it might be the case that simple measures, simple indicators are already available, such as current or temperature. So something that's available in the PLC or even in a dedicated historian. So these are also good starting points that lead to fast success or fast results, at least, that can then be used to base a decision on to extend this project. And then, yes, also it makes sense to start with a sensible amount of assets that are being monitored, because within that trial period, you want to see some failures, right? You want to have a basis to determine was it useful or not. And so it's probably with 1 or 2 machines that you want to monitor, chances are not so high. So it's probably a bigger number you should have in mind to start out. Not just thousands right away, but I don't know, maybe 50 to 100 assets is a good starting point, I would say. So if you have these, let's say, 3 facts kind of available for a discussion, that would be ideal point to talk with a customer and start out a predictive maintenance project.
Perfect. And that was even more perfect because that wasn't on the list. So I sort of put you on the spot a little bit there. So I was just testing you, you see. Awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's great. No, so I think we've come towards the end, but it's been really great to chat. And thank you for sort of taking the time out. To talk these things through. It's really interesting. I'm really excited to see where the journey continues. Like I said, the integration doesn't stop on the 1st of April. It sort of ongoing and continues and upwards, definitely. So looking forward to seeing what happens. So thank you for your time, and we'll see everyone on the next episode.
Please like and subscribe on all major podcast channels, and find out more about Senseye Predictive Maintenance at Siemens.com.